So I want to welcome you all to this PHP programming class. In our last class, sorry, I made mention of the toolkit that we'll be needing for this programming, and I told you Visual Studio, that is the text editor. That's what I'm going to be using. We have several other ones, so you can choose to use Notepad, Notepad plus plus, Sublime Text, and some other text editor. But the one me I'm going to be using is Visual Studio. And I told you, if you already have it in your system, is okay. Then as you can see, this is my own. I already have it installed on my laptop. So this is it. Then that aside, then I also made mention of another important um software that we'll be needing, which is the XAMPP server. XAMPP server, because PHP is actually a server scripting software. So before you can run it, you actually need a software, a testing server. Unlike PHP that you can actually run directly without needing a server. So now, if you already have all this handy, the first thing that we are going to do is for you to set up our root folder. So you locate the installation folder of your XAMPP server by going to your Windows PC file, then you come to XAMPP, then httdoc. This is where you are going to set up your root folder. Are you getting it? So this is where you are going to set up your root folder. So I'll create my folder here. So one thing you need to understand is when you go online, all these websites you are seeing online, they're actually located in a folder. Are you getting it? When you buy a host online and domain online, this is what you are going to see. You are going to see a series of folders like this. Maybe before the end of this programming class, this PHP class, I'm going to show you a live server that I'm using online. So this is how it's going to be. You're going to work with folders. So now we are going to create our folders. Like I said, everything you are doing online, all those images, pictures, videos you are seeing online, they are actually stored in a folder inside your server. So I'm going to name my folder with let's say PHP, or let's say OOP OOPHP. I want to name it with OOPHP is okay. So now I've created my folder. So I'll open the folder now. Then now let me try to access this my particular web folder using my localhost. Let's see how that will go. So now if you want to access that particular folder that we just created, or if you want to access your website using localhost, for you to type localhost. After you type your localhost / then the name of that your folder, which is OOPHP. That name. So you hit enter and it will display. Now it's showing me can't reach this. What is because I've not actually started my XAMPP server. Because before you can view your website, there is need for you to start your XAMPP server. So I'll just come here to this side. You can see to here, that's the application. Then I'll double click, then you allow. So after you double click, this is what is going to pop out. You can just minimize. So if I go back to my server now, my web page F1, and I refresh, it's going to display the index of OOP, the index of OOP. So now that means our server is running. So now the next thing is just for me to open my folder. This is my folder. So I'm going to open it with VS Code. I open with VS Code so that the VS Code can actually interact with this folder. It can open the folder in its own working environment so that all the files I'll be working it will be stored inside the folder. So now the Visual Studio Code. So the Visual Studio Code code has already opened the folder. That is why the name of the folder is showing here. So whatever it is I'm going to create now, it will be here. Are you getting it? So now then the first thing we do is a welcome page. We can just close this. Then now the first thing we need to do is for me to create our file. So what I'll just come here. You can hover your cursor around here, then you see new file. Just click on it. You type the name of the file, which is the name of my file. Let me start with let's index. The extension will be .php. You know, when you are learning HTML, the extension is HTML, but this one now the extension is going to be .php. Then it has already automatically created. Then now, before we actually begin our coding, so you can see the file is already here. There is something we need to do. There is something we actually need to do. There is need for you to structure our website in the sense that there are some other subfolder that we'll be needing, because it's not only the OOP is actually the root folder, but there are some subfolders. Another folder that we'll be needing is we are going to need assets folder. So the assets folder, we'll be needing the assets folder, that is to carry our CSS, JS, and our image folder. Then we are going to be needing another one again, include folder. We'll be needing include folder. Then the next one, we're going to be needing other folders like maybe pages folder. We want to have a separate page for all our PHP files. So I think basically this is what we need for now. So now if I go back to my browser, or assuming, let me just rename this to, or let me do it from my, okay, as you can see the folders are already automatically showing up here. So now let me just rename this to like maybe about.php. Let me go back to my browser and refresh. As you can see, the system automatically lists out all the files inside my root folder. It lists everything out. Are you getting it now? You see my asset, and as somebody can just download everything from. You prevent this. How do you prevent this? So that is the function of the index. So that's the function of the index.php. The index.php is the first file that will always loads up whenever you try to access a particular root folder. Let's say for example now you're having facebook.php, that facebook.com. Let's take for example now you're having something like facebook.com. facebook.com is actually a folder, just like we are having OOPHP now. Are you getting it? So now when you now try to access facebook.com will now look for the index.php. If that index.php is not there, it will list everything out as it is here. But if you're having index.php, loads up what is the content. So what the system does is PHP, it will now loads up what that are being coded into the index.php. But if you are not having index.php, it will display it as it is on the browser. So that is why your home page, the very first page that you want to be displayed to user, should always be in your index.php. So if I now refresh this now, you see that everything has what it has. So once you've set up your working environment and your browser is handy, the next is coding. So before we get into that, I want you guys to understand that PHP can actually be combined with other programming languages like the HTML markup language, JavaScript, other scripting language. But first, before we actually combine these the HTML and CSS, before we combine the HTML and the PHP, just go over some of the basic aspects of PHP so that you get yourself familiar with it. Okay, now the first thing, if you want to make use of PHP syntax, the first thing you need to do is to declare your PHP open. Like this. Now you open your PHP, then you close it like this. That means you've declared your PHP. If you are getting it, you've declared your PHP open. So the first syntax we'll be looking at is the echo. PHP is not like HTML that you can type anywhere, write anywhere. This one, you must do it, you must make use of the right syntax. If you want anything to appear anywhere, you must make use of the most important of all. If you want to dictate this echo, after you must your echo, open your double quote and end it with semicolon. The semicolon is just like you are ending that particular line. Ending that particular line. For example, now if I have another line here, echo, and I end this one here, this one here is actually a line on its own, while this one too is a separate line on its own. So there is need for you to end this first line before, and there is need for you to end the first line just like you are closing the first line. So for example, now if I have something and then here, let's say, and I go back to my browser, localhost OOP, you will see that the welcome to my site is actually showing it now. Having welcome, and I now take out this semicolon. If I go back to my browser and I refresh, it will show error, unexpected token. Cool. Are you getting it? So it's that unexpected key is being noticed, in the sense that the system now assume that everything here is on the same line. The system now assume that everything here is actually on the same line. So this first line here is not different. It's not different from this other line. Are you getting it now? So there is need for me to close it here. There is need for me to tell the browser that this one is a line on its own, while this second one is actually another line on its own. So if I go back now and I now refresh, it should be able to show me that it should be able to display what I'm having in my code. So this is how you actually display or you show a particular text on your browser. Then now, let's say here we are having this welcome to my website, and the toe close. They are close together, and there's supposed to be a space in between them. So what I'll do, I can just come here, create the space here, and I'll go back, refresh. Then I'll go back, refresh. As you can see, the space is being created. If I don't want to do it that way, I can have it here. Are you getting it now? I can have it here. Then I come back and write echo again. Close it. Then I'll create my space here. This is another way you can also do it. You see that the space is still there. Okay, that is it. Then another one again that we'll also look at is let me take this one out, is how you can actually declare variables. How you can declare variables. For example, this welcome, I want to have it stored in a variable called welcome. I want to have it stored somewhere here like this, like welcome is equals to, then I'll give it a text. Welcome is equals to welcome, like this. Are you getting it? So instead of me echoing welcome, I can just come here, welcome. Then when I go to my browser, and I refresh, the welcome will still be there, because what I did, I declared it. It's just like you are storing this welcome to this welcome here. You can change the name to anything. maybe well, you can even leave it at well. But you need to know that whatever it is you use to declare your welcome here is what you are going to echo here. So if you come back now and you now refresh, you see that the welcome is still there, but the toe is now attached to it. Then how do we do that? Then now let's take for example now to my site. Let me still declare site here. Then let it be equal to, let's say, to my site, because I want to make use of the two. Let me say welcome to my site. Then why is this? Okay, welcome to my site. Then let me take this one out, or let me leave it that way, but I'll just comment it out. Sorry. So this is the inline, the inline comment. If you want to comment a particular line, we have double line and a single line comment. So if you want to comment a single line, send that as a code, as a function to be displayed on a web page. That's the essence of comment. It will change it to a comment. It will only be visible to programmer. It won't display on the website. So as I did it like this, as I stored it like this, well is equals to welcome, then site is equals to my site, and I want to display it on my website. I'll just come. If I go now and I refresh, you see welcome only. Are you getting it? Now if I want to combine it to this, okay, now before we get into that, let me show you how you actually combine a declared variable and an ordinary text. Just to put what you would do if you want to combine maybe a declared variable and a text together. What you do is just to bring in your full stop, then after that you can bring in your text as to my site. Are you getting it? So if I go back now and I now refresh, you see that welcome to my site is being added to it. But if I had it been, maybe I take out this dot and I go back and refresh, the system is going to tell me syntax error, because that is not how it is being done. So if you want to combine two different things together, two different syntax together, you need to bring in your dot, then the other text that will follow. So now that is a welcome to my site. Then now let's take for example, I want to combine these two together. So instead of me using my text, since I've already stored this somewhere, I'll just put my dot, then my hash, then site. Are you getting it now? So when I come here and I now refresh, you see that it will still be showing welcome to my site. Okay, now let's see how we can actually combine. Let's say for example, I want to add another text again. Maybe let's say welcome in between. I want to add text in between the variable. I can just create I'll add dot here. Welcome my site. Well, even if it's not correct. So I'll just come here, refresh, and you can see that the U there is showing. Are you getting it now? Then now, how can we, let's say for example now, I want to create a space. If it is the space in between welcome and to, I can come here just like I did that time. I can just come here, space, then I'll come here also, add my full stop, then space. So after welcome, there is this space. Are you getting it? Then you, then my full stop again. I introduce this before the to my site. So if I go back now and I refresh, as you can see, welcome to my site. Let's take for example now, we want to break Let's take for example, we want to break to my site to the next line. Are you getting it? What I simply want to do is now I want to introduce this PHP syntax that I'm using. How do you do it? I can just come here, I put my full stop again, then come here, open my HTML syntax, my HTML tag. So if I come back here now and I now refresh, you see that it will break to the next line. Are you getting it? So this is how you can actually no, the combining I'm talking about is quite different from this one. This not is different from this. Getting it? Bring in your HTML, your PHP tags. Are you getting it? So I think just stop here.